Hola, welcome fam. It's Eb from Eb's Migrations. I share my journey as I migrate and live in the world. This particular video is just discussing why I decided to leave the US and choose a life of living abroad. This is my 5th year of living abroad. And what made me originally choose leaving the US was a solo trip that I took to Bali. I had was planning a trip to India with some friends, and that didn't work out. So I just looked for places, and Bali has always interested me. So I went to Bali and had an amazing time. And it was there that I realized that I was like feeling feelings that I never felt, specifically love. I just felt like love and joy. Like I would walk down the streets and just be like overwhelmed with it. Seriously, like I just wanted to like buy things for people, and I was just overwhelmed with the way that the people there showed up for each other, for themselves, and for love. Like they have a day of silence one day out of the year where they show appreciation to everything that attributes to their life. Like even their car, they'll put flower offerings on the car because the car is what gets them from point A to point B and helps them provide for their family. So just that level of compassion and love was very foreign to me at that point in my life. And it felt good. It felt really good. So when I left there, I went back to the States. Oh, and while I was in Bali, I met a sister from South Africa, from Johannesburg, specifically South Africa, and she was teaching English as a foreign language. And during our conversation, because we hung out for an entire day, during our conversation, she was just sharing with me her journey of teaching abroad, and she kept encouraging me to do it. And I'm like, I'm not an educator, I don't have an education background. And she was like, you're an American. They take Americans. So she kept talking about it, and it sat with me. So when I got back to the States, I remember like my first day back to work from vacation, driving there and just crying, like sobbing, like because I knew what was ahead. Like I knew the stress that lied ahead for me, and I was so sad. But I played like some music that I got from Bali, and once I arrived to work, I just sat in the parking lot and cried. I had to convince myself to get out of the car to go inside work. And then that's when I realized like the difference in emotions and how I was making a choice every day, like for so long, making a choice to be unhappy and miserable and like choosing to go to a place that sucks the life out of me. Like these were choices that I was making. And once I had that awareness, it was really hard to like stay. So I had reached back out to the friend that I met from South Africa, just asking more information about like the program that she used to teach English in South Korea. I did research. I narrowed in on Asia. I really liked my travel to Thailand and then Bali, and I just felt the connection to Asia, so I wanted to teach in Asia. So I looked into Japan, Vietnam, and South Korea in that order. That was the order of like my choices. And Japan just didn't allow for me to save any money. Like living in Tokyo, it was just busy and you don't save, and they don't offer as much as like the program in Korea. And Vietnam just required, at least from the research that I received at that time, just required you to be there. Like you had to go to Vietnam first and then shop around your resume and find a job there. And that didn't sit with me at that particular point in my life. So South Korea offered, like I just kept hearing how like hard it was to get into the program and reading a lot of rejections that people had. But the program offers so much. Like they provided for me like a round trip flight. They gave me a severance, a pension, all of that when I left. And they also give you a salary tax free for Americans for the first 2 years. And they paid for my housing. Like I just had to pay for utilities and feeding myself. So I was able to save a lot while I was there. And that was just the route that I chose. So I went through with applying. It was pretty extensive, the application process and the documentations that you need to have for the application. And after doing all of that, I interviewed and I got it. And then I remember selling everything. Like I sold my car, I gave away my clothes. Like I was like, I'm leaving the States, and I don't know when I'll return, if I return. And It was my car. That made me so emotional. That was my baby. I had her fresh off the lot, and we've been through some things. So yeah, once I did all of that, I left for South Korea. After South Korea, I had lost my father, so in the physical sense. So after that, I took a 3 year sabbatical from working and just traveled through. I spent a lot of time in countries in Africa, specifically South Africa, Johannesburg. And then I went to Botswana, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Zanzibar is beautiful. And then more recently, I lived, and after that, I did Europe. And through Europe, I did the Netherlands. I took a bus to maybe Paris after that, Paris to London, and then I did the south of Spain. So I was just living my best life. And learning about myself too, and about the world, and like realizing that there's a lot that I don't know. Like I don't know anything. Like there's so much to learn. And after that, I came to Mexico, where I'm currently living now, and I fell in love with the country. Like I didn't think I would. I was stuck in Johannesburg for 9 months. A 3 week trip turned into a 9 month stay, 9 to 10 months actually, because of COVID and lockdown. So once I left there, I came back to the States, and it's always hard for me to adjust to the States. So I knew I had to get out, and Mexico, like, just allow for, you didn't need a vaccine, you didn't need a COVID test. Like, it was just an easy entry process. And they give Americans and Europeans a 6 month stay. So it just made sense to me at that time, and I came and fell in love with this country. Like the people are my favorite part. Like they're so generous. If you've never been, please do yourself a favor. Aside from like just the beautiful landscape, the diversity in the landscape, the people are amazing. Like very warm and family oriented, and when you walk down the street, they acknowledge you. You know, like you can speak to somebody and get acknowledged. That hasn't been my experience in the States, especially like I'm from the East Coast and from the North, so people are like always on a go. Like you better not stop them from where they need to go. Like people are busy and they don't have time to speak, and staring can cause like problems, so you just don't look at people. So yeah, it was just a different way. Like it was more of what I experienced while I was in Africa and Asia from the people. So it felt like home in that regard, because the world has been my home for the amount of time I've been out of the US. So while in Mexico, I found a position in Somaliland, which is a country within Somalia. Two separate countries. They govern themselves, and Somaliland is way safer than Somalia. So it was an all-women's university in the middle of the desert, about an hour and a half from the capital. The closest village to me was of maybe 30 to 40 people, and that was a 15-minute walk. The next one, where you can actually have like shops and all of that, was a 3-hour walk, which I did with like some friends. We did a round trip, so we trekked for like 6 hours. You can actually watch that video. I'll put a link. I'll put it in here from on my YouTube. So after that, I did a whole year there. As a professor, I taught English, geography and culture, community development, and technology in a classroom. The university is training young women to be educators themselves, because women are not present in the workforce out there. I think maybe it's 3% of women that are present in the workforce in Somaliland. And because of the turmoil and the genocide that occurred from Somalia to Somaliland, the infrastructure is still being rebuilt. Like they gained their independence in 91 or 94, not sure, one of those, I can't remember off top. But so it's very recent. So most of the teachers, if they were women, they were older, like elders, and it's just the material is out of date in terms of keeping them on track with the outside world, right? Like it works for just being in Somaliland, but they're trying to make themselves international and bringing in like people to come in and teach English and things like that. So yeah, I did that for a year. That was extremely challenging, the most difficult assignment that I've had in my life, but it taught me a lot about myself. Like being in solitude in the desert taught me a lot. I will share a whole separate video on my time in Somaliland, because it was beautiful. As challenging as it was, my young ladies that I taught and they taught me, it was a beautiful moment. So yes, after Somaliland, I came back to Mexico. And that's where I've been holding space since. It's a beautiful country that I have been trying to see if I can like really live here long term. And I like it. Life is easy here, much easier than the States, even in terms of like rent. You can find places for under 500, even cheaper than that, 400, depending on like the state. If you're in Puebla, I think the most, like for a modern place, you can pay 250 USD a month for an apartment, like a one bedroom apartment. Where I fell in love with Puerto Escondido, it became quite expensive just because Europeans and Americans and Canadians have been coming and buying up property. So it's starting to get slightly gentrified, and that didn't resonate with me. Like I went back there, but it wasn't working for me in that season. Like maybe I'll return another time, but at that particular time, I noticed a change, and it started to become more like Tulum. And I try to stay away from areas in Mexico that have more tourist presence. It's nice to have an expat community, but I also like to be a part of the Mexican community too. That's why I'm here. So and I like to eat local and good food. And in Puerto, a lot of places are ran by like people from the outside, and they raise the prices a lot in comparison to like if you were to eat local at a local restaurant. So yeah, that's been like my journey in a nutshell, and I don't really foresee me going back to the States to live, just because I have so much freedom living outside of America, especially as a black woman, and traveling. And out of all the places that I've lived, like Mexico, the people here receive me and my color. Like I get stopped to be complimented for my complexion, I promise you, and my hair. Like they love my hair, and then they love my skin. Like so many men and women will stop me to compliment me on my skin. It's to the point I can't even count on both hands anymore. That's how many people have done it. Aside from, even if they don't say anything, they'll just stare, and you can tell like it's a stare. When I was in South Korea, I got stared at a lot. Like that's just the thing. And I didn't take it in a beginning, I took it personally, but then I noticed that people are just curious, right? Like for some people, especially the town that I was living in, it was a new town. Some of those people have never experienced like a person of color like myself. So I understand the curiosity. But yeah, so that's that. That's Mexico, and that's why I left the States and why I've continued living here. I just found myself in the States repeating the same like loop and cycle of like work, 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 and you work to pay your bills and everything. Especially, I'm from New Jersey, and it's so close to New York. We're next door. The only thing that separates us is a bridge and a tunnel, depending on which part you're accessing it from. So their rates and things spill over to us, and a lot of people live and work in both. So like we're sisters and brothers, and it's very expensive, very expensive. And I've been doing it most of my life, and I didn't realize it until I left. So I don't have like the anxiety and the stress and just like the depression. In Jersey, you only get like 2 months of summer. I would never have this color living in New Jersey, because like most of the time the sun does come out. It's not like London or like the UK, like where it's very gloomy. In most parts of Europe, like we do have sun that comes up, but it's still cold. Like it's cold in winter and blizzard. So just the weather, the living conditions, the programming from the States, like the news, and just like it's so much happening in America, and it happens all over the world, right? But I find myself more at peace living outside of the States. So I don't plan on returning as like living long term in the States. I go back to visit family, and that's it. And at this point, I don't see that even happening anytime soon. Like they could just come to me wherever I am in the world. I don't mind my nails, my polish. I can't keep nail polish on my nails. They don't like it. Like I try, because I like color, especially black on my nails, black or like a deep red, but it doesn't like my nails. So yeah. So that's been the journey. I don't know if you've lived outside the world. Some countries, especially as a person of color, a woman with melanated, like a deeper hued skin, because it changes. Especially here, like people think I'm from Cuba. it blows their mind when I say I'm an American, like, or that I'm from Estados Unidos, the U.S. They think I'm from Cuba or like Guatemala or somewhere where there's brown people. That's where they think I'm from. Um, but since I've been here, I've been like working on my Spanish. I took swimming lessons, like just stepping outside of the box and doing things that I never did or I didn't know how to do, and finding peace in that. Like Mexico has like upgraded me on so many levels. Travel has upgraded me, but specifically in this season, I've noticed so much spiritual growth, and it could have, like, most of it came from being in the desert, like for real, because I had to do a lot of reflection, and then I started to look at people that would trigger me, and use it as a tool to be a mirror instead of like becoming victim. Like, why is she coming at me with this energy, or is he coming at me with this energy? And just look at them and see different versions of myself, whether it be the past me or like present me and things I still need to work on. But I've used that as a tool, and from that I've grown a lot. Like, I've grown a lot spiritually. And when you grow, unfortunately you lose people in your life, you know what I mean? Like, people shed. So that's also part of the process, and it's cool because I get new people. Like, I've been finding really amazing people who are like-minded and are just intentional about the way they live and purposeful about just living their purpose and whatever they want to do. Like, right now I'm sharing space. I'm sharing a house with two other sisters, one from Venezuela and one from Colombia. And they're just amazing, talented women. And it's so nice to be able to like vibe and share. And I see so much in me. And I'm one of them. She's like, she came here to where I am in Bacala. She wanted to learn sailing, like how to be a sailor. She did it. Now she's a seller. She's working as a seller and like doing fire dancing, teaching me too. But the other one plays an instrument, and she's an amazing performer. She does performance dance. But I say all that to say, if I was in the States, I could meet these people, but like, I don't feel like the intentionality of life and how they show up in life would be the same. So that's kind of that. So yeah, I think that's it. Again, I'm Ev from Ev's Migrations. My channel, what I do is I just share and expose like what I see as I migrate around the world, whether it be landscape or people, just my journey. And I'm going to start sharing more of like my spiritual journey, because it may resonate and help somebody else. And that's what that is. But yeah, so thank you. Like and subscribe, turn on your notifications so you can see when I post new videos. And love and light. I love all of you. Have a beautiful day.